Have you ever felt like the more available you are, the less a man seems to appreciate you? Like no matter how much effort you put in, he just doesn't crave you the way you crave him. It's frustrating, right? You're giving your time, your love, your energy, yet somehow it feels like it's pushing him further away instead of drawing him in. Here's the harsh truth that no one talks about. Men don't fall for the woman who is always there. They fall for the woman whose presence is a privilege, not a given. Think about it. What do we desire the most? What we can't easily have? What feels slightly out of reach? What leaves us wanting more? The same principle applies to attraction. But here's where most women go wrong. They think they need to play mind games, act disinterested, or pretend to be something they're not. That's not what this is about. This is about shifting your energy. It's about understanding that absence, when used correctly, is not rejection. It's seduction. The kind of seduction that isn't loud or desperate, the kind that lingers in his mind long after you're gone, the kind that makes him wonder, what is she doing? Is she thinking about me? How do I get more of her? And that's exactly what we're diving into today. You're about to learn how to use your absence as the most powerful attraction tool you've ever had. But here's the catch. This only works if you're willing to truly step into your worth. You can't just pretend to be unavailable while secretly waiting for him to text you. You have to become the woman who doesn't chase, because she knows she doesn't have to. So, are you ready? Are you ready to become the kind of woman who naturally commands desire without begging for it? Then keep reading, because what you're about to discover will change everything. 1. The power of mystery, less availability, more intrigue. Have you ever noticed that the things you desire the most are the ones that feel just a little bit out of reach? The limited edition handbag that sells out before you can get it, the exclusive event that requires an invitation, the person who seems just mysterious enough that you can't quite figure them out. There's something intoxicating about scarcity, about knowing that something or someone is not easily attainable. When it comes to attraction, the same principle applies. Men are wired to chase, to wonder, to crave. They don't fall for the woman who lays everything out on the table from day one. They fall for the woman who keeps them intrigued, who gives just enough to spark their interest, but holds back enough to leave them wanting more. But here's where most women get it wrong. They think that to keep a man interested, they need to be constantly available, always responsive, and overly accommodating. They think that by showing how much they care, by answering texts immediately, by making time whenever he asks, by giving and giving, they'll win him over. The truth is, the more accessible you are, the less valuable you appear. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding human psychology. What is given too freely is taken for granted. What is slightly out of reach is pursued with passion. This is why the woman who is always available, always eager, always waiting for his next move, often finds herself being taken for granted. Meanwhile, the woman who knows when to pull back, who keeps a certain level of mystery, becomes the one he can't stop thinking about. Mystery is a powerful force, but it's not about deception. It's about depth. When a man feels like there's always more to discover about you, he stays engaged. He stays curious. He starts to wonder about you even when you're not around. He replays your conversations, trying to decode what you meant. He checks his phone, hoping for your message but unsure if it will come. He watches you from across the room, trying to understand what it is about you that makes you so magnetic. And here's the best part. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to pretend to be busy. You just have to actually be a woman whose life is full and rich on its own. There's nothing more attractive than a woman who is truly immersed in her own world, who has passions, interests, and ambitions that extend far beyond any relationship. When you're deeply engaged in your own life, your energy shifts. You no longer seek validation from a man's attention because you're already fulfilled. You radiate confidence because you know that no single person defines your worth. This doesn't mean you ignore him or act disinterested just to manipulate his emotions. It means you stop making him the center of your universe. When you shift your focus away from constant availability and instead invest in yourself, your dreams, your passions, your growth, he will feel it. He will sense the difference. He will begin to crave the moments you choose to share with him rather than taking them for granted. Anticipation. The secret to attraction. One of the most powerful forces in attraction is the feeling of wanting but not fully having. Think about it. When you're reading a novel that keeps dropping hints about a big reveal, you can't stop turning the pages. When you're watching a movie that builds tension perfectly, you're glued to the screen. When you're falling for someone and don't know exactly where you stand, your emotions heighten. You become more invested, more intrigued, more addicted. But when everything is handed to you at once, the magic fades. Imagine if you opened a book, and in the first chapter, it told you every twist, every secret, every resolution. Would you keep reading? Probably not. The excitement isn't just in knowing, it's in discovering. Attraction works the same way. If you're always available, always texting first, always eager to see him, you remove that sense of discovery. He knows exactly where he stands. He knows you'll be there no matter what. There's no curiosity, no tension, no reason to chase. But when you allow space, when you step back just enough to create that feeling of I want more, but I don't fully have her, that's when you become unforgettable. How to create mystery without playing games. You might be wondering, how do I create mystery without playing games? How do I keep him intrigued without pretending to be someone I'm not? It starts with how you show up. Instead of giving away your whole story in one conversation, leave room for intrigue. Instead of always answering immediately, respond on your own time. Instead of rearranging your schedule to accommodate him, prioritize your own plans first. Instead of oversharing everything about yourself, let him ask. Let him wonder. Let him work to uncover who you are. This doesn't just apply to dating. It's a mindset shift in how you carry yourself. Women who naturally command attention, who make men crave them, don't do it by trying too hard. They do it by being effortlessly magnetic. They move through the world with confidence, knowing that they are worth the effort. They don't throw themselves at a man's feet because they understand their own value, and in doing so, they make him step up to meet them at their level. Detachment from outcome. There's a concept in Stoicism that applies perfectly here: detachment from outcome. Stoic women understand that their worth isn't determined by whether a man chooses them or not. They don't need to cling or chase because they know that true attraction isn't about convincing someone to want you. It's about being the kind of woman he doesn't want to lose. When you master this, everything changes. You stop feeling anxious about when he'll text you next. You stop overthinking his every move. You stop trying to mold yourself into what you think he wants. Instead, you step fully into your own energy, your own power, your own radiance. In doing so, you create an irresistible pull, a pull that has nothing to do with tricks or tactics and everything to do with your essence. Ultimately, the most magnetic women are the ones who are not just wanted, but wondered about. The ones who don't give away their presence too easily. The ones who understand that the most powerful kind of attraction isn't built through words or actions, it's built through energy. So ask yourself, are you creating that sense of mystery? Are you leaving him with enough space to miss you? Are you living your life so fully that he has no choice but to be drawn to you? When you embrace the power of absence, of intrigue, of scarcity, you stop chasing and instead become the one he can't stop chasing. 2. Absence creates emotional craving. Have you ever noticed how much more you think about someone when they're not around? How their absence makes you replay moments, analyze conversations, and wonder what they're doing? This isn't just your imagination, it's psychology. The human brain fills in the gaps when something or someone is missing. When it comes to attraction, that gap creates longing, desire, and emotional craving. But here's the mistake many women make. They fear distance. They believe that if they step back, stop initiating, or let a little silence settle in, the man will forget about them. They think that if they aren't constantly present in his life, he'll move on. The truth, however, is the exact opposite. When you are always there, always available, and always reaching out, he never has the space to miss you, to appreciate you, or to crave you. He never experiences the feeling of loss. And without loss, there is no longing. When you create just the right amount of distance, when you allow your absence to settle in, he starts to feel something he didn't before, the pull of missing you. Think about the last time you truly missed someone. What happened? You probably started thinking about them more, reminiscing about the best moments, the little details, and the things that made them special. You started wondering when you'd see them again, maybe even feeling a little restless. And when you finally got the chance to reconnect, it felt amazing. The reunion was sweeter because of the time apart. That's exactly what happens when you allow a man to feel your absence. Here's the key. You don't need to manufacture distance artificially. You don't need to ghost him or disappear for weeks just to get a reaction. Instead, you need to create a life so full, so rich, and so captivating that your natural absence becomes inevitable. You aren't stepping back to manipulate him. You're stepping back because you're busy living, growing, and evolving. This is where many women struggle. They've been conditioned to believe that love means constant presence, constant attention, and constant validation. They think that if they aren't always showing up, he'll forget about them. But in reality, when you constantly show up, he gets used to it. He starts to expect it. And the moment something becomes expected, it loses its impact. When you remove yourself just enough, when you're not always the first to text, when you don't immediately respond, when you don't adjust your life around his availability, he starts to feel the difference, and that difference creates craving. Men are hunters by nature. They are wired to pursue, to desire, and to chase after what feels just slightly out of reach, not completely unattainable, but just far enough away that they feel the need to put in effort. But if you're always there, always giving, always making it easy for him, there's nothing for him to work for, no sense of urgency, no need to step up, no reason to chase. This is why some women experience a heartbreaking shift in their relationships. In the beginning, he's obsessed, calling, texting, making plans, and showing up with enthusiasm. But over time, as she becomes more available, more predictable, more present, his excitement fades. Not because she did anything wrong, but because he stopped feeling the emotional high of wanting and longing for her. This is where the power of absence comes in. When you allow space in the dynamic, when you aren't constantly available, you give him the gift of anticipation. You allow him to experience what it feels like when you're not around. And in that space, something magical happens. He starts yearning for you. This is when he starts checking his phone to see if you've texted. This is when he starts wondering what you're up to. This is when he starts making more effort, planning more intentionally, and appreciating your presence more deeply, because he realizes that your presence is not guaranteed, it is earned. Let me be clear, this isn't about playing games. It's about rewiring your own mindset, about shifting from a place of seeking validation to a place of knowing your worth. Women who naturally command desire don't do it by manipulating men. They do it by living in such a way that men have no choice but to notice their absence. Imagine this. You've been dating someone for a while, and instead of always being the one to text first, check in, or initiate plans, you shift your focus. You start pouring more energy into yourself, your passions, your friendships, your personal growth. You let go of the need to always control the dynamic. And suddenly, something changes. He notices. He starts texting more, calling more, asking when he'll see you again, not because you told him to, not because you played a trick on him, but because he felt the difference. Your absence created craving. This is what makes attraction last. Not constant closeness, but the balance of closeness and distance, of presence and absence, of giving and withholding naturally, organically, and effortlessly. This is why some relationships stay passionate for years, while others fade into monotony. It's not just about love, it's about the space where love has room to breathe. And if you're thinking, but what if I step back and he doesn't notice? What if he doesn't care? Then that's your answer. If a man does not feel your absence, he was never truly valuing your presence to begin with. A man who is truly interested, truly invested, and truly connected to you will feel it. He will miss you, he will crave you, and he will move towards you, not because you forced him to, but because your absence revealed to him just how much he desires you. So, ask yourself, are you giving him the space to feel your absence? Are you creating enough anticipation, enough longing, and enough emotional pull to make him crave you? Or have you been unknowingly making it too easy, too predictable, too constant? Here's the truth. When you master the art of absence, you will never have to chase, beg for attention, or wonder where you stand. He will make it clear through his actions, his pursuit, and the way he moves towards you when he feels the space you've created. This is the key to deep, lasting attraction. And if this resonates with you, if you're feeling that aha moment right now, like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know if you've ever experienced this shift, when stepping back made him step up. And if you haven't yet, it's time to try. Of course, subscribe to this channel because we have so much more to uncover about the secrets of attraction, the power of feminine energy, and how to truly become the woman men can't resist. Because this is just the beginning. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. 3. Scarcity sparks appreciation. Have you ever noticed how much more you appreciate something when there's a chance you might lose it? It's not until your favorite restaurant closes that you realize how much you loved their food. It's not until a vacation ends that you truly savor every moment of its beauty. It's not until someone you care about pulls away that you start thinking about them constantly, feeling their absence in a way you never expected. Scarcity creates value. This is not just a theory, it's a psychological truth. What is always available is often taken for granted, while what is rare is treasured. This applies to attraction in the most powerful way. When a woman makes herself constantly available, always answering texts immediately, always saying yes to last-minute plans, always ready to drop everything for a man, she may think she's proving her love and devotion. But in reality, she is making her presence commonplace, and the moment something becomes commonplace, it loses its magic. Think about it. The most expensive jewels in the world, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, are not valuable because they are the most beautiful stones. They are valuable because they are rare. Scarcity is what makes people desire them, chase after them, and invest in them. The same principle applies to how a man perceives you. When your presence is scarce, not in a manipulative or distant way, but in a way that is intentional and self-respecting, a man begins to see you differently. He starts to realize that your time is not something to be taken lightly. that your attention is not given freely to just anyone, and that being in your world is a privilege, not a given. That realization changes everything. Men are naturally wired to value what they must earn. It's not because they don't appreciate kindness or affection. It's because their very nature is built on the instinct to pursue and to work for what they desire. When something comes too easily, they don't feel that same sense of achievement, investment, or appreciation. But when a man senses that your presence is something he must value and respect, he starts to treat it differently. He becomes more careful with your time, more intentional with his words, and more aware of how he shows up for you. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about understanding your own worth. A woman who deeply values herself naturally creates an air of scarcity, not because she's trying to manipulate, but because she genuinely understands that her energy is precious. There's a powerful concept in Stoic philosophy that aligns perfectly with this: emotional self-sufficiency. A woman who embodies this doesn't rely on external validation to feel complete. She isn't waiting for a man's attention to determine her worth. Instead, she is deeply connected to herself, her purpose, and her own sense of joy. Because of that, she does not give herself away easily. She chooses carefully and intentionally. What happens when a man encounters this kind of woman? He notices. He starts to see her as someone different, someone who isn't like the others, who isn't seeking approval, who isn't desperate for attention, and who isn't bending over backward to prove her value. This fascinates him. The truth is, most women are unknowingly conditioned to overgive, to always be available, to constantly accommodate, and to seek reassurance through their presence. In doing so, they lose the very thing that makes them irresistible: their mystery, their rarity, and their ability to make a man feel like he has discovered something truly special. So, what does this look like in action? It means you don't drop everything the moment he calls, not because you're playing games, but because you are genuinely engaged in your own life. It means you don't respond immediately to every text, not because you're trying to make him wait, but because your time is valuable and you don't live at the mercy of your phone. It means you don't rearrange your entire schedule to fit his, not because you don't want to see him, but because your life doesn't revolve around him. When a man senses this, when he realizes that your presence is not something guaranteed, but something earned, he starts to step up. He starts to think about how he can impress you, how he can make time with you special, and how he can stand out. Suddenly he feels that your time is not to be taken for granted. And here's the best part. When you create this dynamic, it isn't just about making him want you more. It's about creating a relationship where mutual respect and appreciation are at the core. Because here's the truth. You don't just want a man to chase you, you want a man to cherish you. Cherishing only happens when someone feels the weight of what they have. If you've ever been in a relationship where you gave and gave, only to feel unseen, unappreciated, and undervalued, this is why. Not because you weren't enough, not because he didn't care, but because there was no scarcity. And scarcity isn't about withholding love. It's about valuing yourself enough to make sure that what you give is truly received, truly appreciated, and truly earned. This is the secret to lasting attraction, to relationships that don't just burn bright in the beginning, but stay powerful over time. When a man knows that your presence is not something he can take lightly, he treats it differently. He sees you differently. And this isn't something you have to force. It's something that happens naturally when you step into your own self-worth. So ask yourself, am I making my presence a privilege, or am I giving it away too freely? Am I allowing space for appreciation to grow, or am I so afraid of losing him that I never allow him to feel what it would be like to miss me? When you master this, when you embrace the power of scarcity, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your own deep self-respect, You stop wondering whether a man values you. His actions will make it crystal clear that he does. Fourth, building self-worth and confidence through distance. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who carries herself with quiet confidence. The kind of woman who doesn't seek approval, doesn't need constant reassurance, and isn't afraid to take up space in her own life. She doesn't beg for love because she understands something most people don't. True attraction isn't about proving your worth to someone else. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that others feel it without you saying a word. But here's where most women struggle. They confuse closeness with connection. They think that if they're always present, always available, and always checking in, they'll build a stronger bond with a man. They believe that being distant means being cold, and that pulling back means losing the connection. The truth is, distance is where confidence grows. When you create space and allow yourself time to focus on your own life, rather than constantly orbiting around a man, you give yourself the chance to develop an inner strength that is unshakable. You start to realize that your happiness isn't tied to his attention, that your value doesn't decrease just because someone isn't texting you back, and that your world continues to move with or without him. This shift is everything, because a woman who knows she is whole on her own becomes a woman who is impossible to ignore. She isn't waiting by her phone, anxiously checking to see if he's replied. She isn't saying yes to plans that don't excite her just to be nice. She isn't bending over backward to accommodate a man who hasn't shown that he deserves her time. Instead, she's busy. She's engaged in her own life. She's building something for herself that makes her feel alive, regardless of whether he's in the picture or not. And this is where the real magic happens. When a man senses that your happiness doesn't depend on him, that your world is full and vibrant without his constant presence, he starts to view you differently. He starts to respect you in a way he didn't before. He starts to see you not as someone who needs him, but as someone who chooses him, and that difference is everything. Men don't fall for the woman who needs them. They fall for the woman who doesn't need them, but still chooses to be with them. And that's the paradox most women miss. They think that by showing how much they care, how much they're willing to give, and how available they are, they'll win his love. But what actually makes a man cherish a woman is knowing that she is strong enough to walk away if he doesn't step up. Let's be real. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were giving too much, but not receiving the same energy in return? Where you were always available, but he wasn't making an effort? Where you kept trying to show your worth, but instead of appreciating it, he seemed to pull away even more? That's because giving more doesn't make someone appreciate you more. It often has the opposite effect. When something is given too freely, it's taken for granted. But when something feels slightly out of reach, when it feels earned, not handed over, it is treasured. And the easiest way to shift this dynamic: stop giving all of your energy away so freely. Pull back, not to play games, but to redirect that energy into yourself, into your passions, your goals, and your own growth. When you do this, you do more than just become more attractive. You become a woman who is centered, self-assured, and deeply at peace with herself. That kind of energy is rare. It's intoxicating. It makes people lean in, wondering what it is about you that feels so different, so unshakable, so irresistible. Men feel it. They notice when you stop over-investing. They notice when your energy shifts from seeking validation to simply being. They notice when you start prioritizing yourself instead of putting them on a pedestal. And suddenly, they start craving your attention in a way they never did before. But the best part? You're no longer waiting for it. Once you tap into this level of self-worth, you stop settling for breadcrumbs. You stop hoping that someone will notice you. You stop waiting for a man to give you the validation you once thought you needed. Instead, You walk into every room knowing that you are the prize. This is what separates women who are constantly chasing love from women who naturally attract it. It's not about being the most beautiful woman in the room. It's not about being the smartest, the funniest, or the most charming. It's about the energy you carry, the way you hold yourself, and the way you move through the world with a sense of ease, grace, and quiet confidence. The foundation of that confidence. Knowing that distance doesn't weaken attraction, it strengthens it. Because when you are comfortable with space, solitude, and your own company, you show the world, and him, that you are whole all on your own. And that is what makes a man look at you and think, I can't lose her. So if you've been giving too much, always being the first to reach out, constantly making yourself available, it's time to shift. Not because you're trying to play a game, but because you deserve to feel like a woman who is cherished, not just convenient. You deserve to be appreciated, not just expected. You deserve a love that is intentional, not just habitual. The moment you start showing up for yourself instead of overextending for him, you will see the shift happen. He will feel it. He will notice. He will start making more of an effort because now he sees that you are someone who doesn't give her energy away to just anyone. If this resonates with you and you feel ready to step into this power, like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know if you've ever noticed how stepping back made a man step up. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel because, trust me, we're just getting started. There is so much more to uncover about love, attraction, and becoming the kind of woman who naturally commands desire. 5. The art of leaving him wanting more. There's an art to leaving someone wanting more. A delicate balance between presence and absence that fuels the fire of attraction. When you think about the moments that made you truly desire someone, they weren't the ones where everything was handed to you effortlessly. They were the moments of anticipation, of wondering, of feeling the excitement build because you didn't have full access yet. That tension, that mystery, that not quite knowing, that's what keeps people engaged, invested, and craving more. But too many women make the mistake of overgiving, thinking that the more they show up, the more they express their feelings, and the more they accommodate, the more a man will appreciate them. The reality is that the opposite happens. When something is too available, it loses its appeal. It becomes predictable, expected, and, in the worst cases, forgettable. Have you ever had an incredible conversation with someone, one that left your heart racing with excitement, and then, just as the conversation was at its peak, it ended? Maybe they had to leave, maybe the moment was interrupted, or maybe they just knew exactly when to walk away. What happened after? You thought about it. You replayed the words. You felt the anticipation of when you'd get to continue that energy again. The lack of immediate gratification made it even more powerful. This is exactly how attraction works. If you always give a man everything at once, your time, your attention, your emotions, your presence, there's no room for that anticipation to grow. He never experiences the thrill of wondering when he'll see you next, the excitement of trying to impress you, or the satisfaction of knowing he has to earn your time. Instead, he gets used to it. It becomes routine, and routine is the enemy of desire. Desire lives in the unknown, in the spaces where things are still unfolding, still developing. The best love stories are not the ones where everything happens too easily, too quickly, or too predictably. They are the ones with build-up, with tension, with the intoxicating feeling of not quite having, but almost. That feeling is what keeps a man coming back for more. So, what does this mean for you? It means knowing when to leave, when to step back, and when to exit while the energy is still high. Instead of overstaying, instead of stretching out every moment, and instead of giving him unlimited access to you, you master the art of leaving at the peak. This doesn't mean ghosting him, playing games, or creating unnecessary distance. It means moving with intention, knowing that when you walk away at just the right time, you leave behind a feeling that lingers. Men by nature are wired to pursue. They are drawn to what feels just out of reach, to what requires effort, to what gives them a sense of accomplishment. The moment a man feels like he has you completely without having had to work for it, he stops feeling that same intensity of desire. But when he senses that you are someone who cannot be taken for granted, who knows her value, and who is comfortable stepping away, his instincts kick in. He starts to chase. He starts to appreciate. He starts to feel something that so many women struggle to make men feel: the fear of losing you. And this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding energy. A woman who doesn't overstay, who doesn't overgive, and who doesn't feel the need to constantly reaffirm her presence is a woman who is rare. She isn't desperate to hold on because she knows that the right man will always come back for more. She doesn't feel the need to prove her worth because her worth is already felt through the way she carries herself. The power of this is undeniable. When you learn to leave him wanting more, when you step away before the energy dies down, when you create space for him to reach out instead of always being the one to initiate, you shift the entire dynamic. He starts thinking about you even when you're not there. He starts associating you with that feeling of excitement, of wonder. What is she doing? When will I see her again? How do I get more of her time? And the best part, you don't have to force it. You don't have to pretend to be busy or make up excuses. You just have to be deeply engaged in your own life, in your own happiness, and in your own self-development. When you naturally have things that keep you occupied, your passions, your friends, your career, your personal growth, you won't feel the need to overextend for him. Your life will be full, whether he's there or not. And that kind of emotional independence is intoxicating. The problem is, many women fear stepping back. They think, if I don't reach out, he'll forget about me. If I don't say yes to every plan, he'll lose interest. If I don't keep reminding him of how amazing I am, he won't see my value. But this fear is based on a misunderstanding of how attraction works. If a man loses interest because you didn't overgive, he was never truly interested in the first place. A man who genuinely values you will feel your absence. He will notice when you aren't always available, and if he's truly drawn to you, he will take action. This is why women who understand the power of leaving at the peak always stand out. They don't smother a connection, they let it breathe. They give it space to grow, to build, to intensify. They understand that true attraction is not about forcing something, it's about allowing it to unfold naturally, and in that unfolding, they remain centered in themselves, never chasing, never over-explaining, never desperately trying to hold on, because they know, when you leave at the peak, you leave him wanting more. Think about the most iconic love stories, the ones that stay with you, the ones that make your heart race. They aren't the ones where everything is easy and predictable. They're the ones that have tension, uncertainty, and moments of longing. The best moments aren't the ones where everything is settled. They're the moments of almost, the moments where two people are drawn toward each other, but there is still space left to explore. This is what makes attraction last. The ability to keep a man's mind on you, even when you're not there. The ability to create an emotional experience that doesn't end the moment you walk away but lingers in his thoughts, his memories, and his feelings. And the ability to make your presence feel like a gift rather than a constant expectation. When you master this, you'll never have to wonder where you stand with a man. You'll never have to chase, to beg, or to overgive, because he will make it clear, through his actions, through his effort, through the way he moves toward you instead of away. When you become the woman who knows when to walk away, who knows how to leave at the peak, and who understands the power of creating space for desire. You become the woman who is never forgotten. 6. Setting boundaries that demand respect. There is nothing more attractive than a woman who knows her worth, who moves through life with a quiet, unshakable confidence that tells the world, "I am not to be taken for granted." A woman like this doesn't beg for attention, chase after love, or tolerate half-hearted efforts. Why? Because she understands one of the most powerful truths about attraction. People respect what they cannot control. Yet so many women unknowingly give their power away. They say yes when they really want to say no. They accept last-minute plans, thinking it's better than nothing. They keep giving more, hoping that eventually he will see their worth. But here's the problem. When you don't demand respect, you don't get it. The fastest way to make a man take you for granted is to act like your time, your love, and your presence are unlimited resources. Boundaries are not about playing games. They're about setting the standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. When you have clear boundaries, you show a man, without words, that you are not someone he can take lightly, and that makes you irresistible. Imagine this. A man reaches out to you late at night, asking if you want to hang out. You like him. You've been waiting to hear from him. A part of you wants to say yes, because you crave his presence. But deep down, you know that if you accept this kind of last-minute, low-effort invitation, you are teaching him how to treat you. You are telling him that your time is not valuable, that he doesn't have to make an effort, that he doesn't have to respect you. But when you say no, when you politely but firmly decline, you are sending an entirely different message. You are showing him that if he wants to see you, he needs to plan ahead. That if he wants access to you, he must earn it. And when a man senses that a woman holds herself to this standard, something shifts inside him. Suddenly he's intrigued. He realizes that you are different, that you are not like the others. This is why boundaries create desire. The more a man has to work for something, the more he values it. And the moment he realizes that your time is a privilege, not a guarantee, he starts to treat it as such. But here's the mistake many women make. They set boundaries, but don't enforce them. They say things like, "I won't tolerate inconsistency," but then keep entertaining a man who only puts in half the effort. They say, "I want a man who respects my time," but continue responding to last-minute texts. They say, "I won't settle for less than I deserve," but stay in situations that leave them feeling unfulfilled. When a man sees that your words and actions don't align, he stops taking you seriously. He learns that he can push your limits, that you will always bend, that he doesn't have to step up because deep down, he knows you'll be there regardless. But when you stick to your boundaries, when you prove that you mean what you say, everything changes. He starts to see you as a woman with self-respect, with standards, with the kind of presence that demands admiration. And men don't forget a woman like that. They chase her, respect her, and work to keep her. A woman who sets boundaries radiates confidence, and confidence is intoxicating. It's the energy of a woman who doesn't fear losing a man because she knows the right man will never risk losing her. Let's talk about something even deeper. Boundaries don't just protect you, they also protect your emotions, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. Every time you allow someone to overstep, you are sending a message to yourself that your needs don't matter, that your feelings are secondary, that your desires are less important than someone else's. Over time, this chips away at your confidence. It makes you feel like you have to prove your worth instead of simply knowing it. But when you start to honor yourself, when you start choosing yourself, even when it's difficult, something powerful happens. You start to attract people who treat you with the same level of respect you demand from yourself. You stop feeling anxious about where you stand with a man because you stand firmly in your own worth. Here's the truth. A man will never value you more than you value yourself. If you tolerate inconsistency, he will be inconsistent. If you allow disrespect, he will test your limits. If you let him get away with minimal effort, he will never feel the need to give more. But when you make it clear, through your actions, not just your words, that you expect more, he will rise to the occasion. And the best part? You won't have to beg, plead, or convince him to step up. The kind of man who is worth your time will recognize your value without needing constant reminders. This is what separates women who struggle in relationships from women who naturally command love and respect. The first group waits for a man to treat them right before they believe they are worthy. The second group treats themselves with so much self-respect that a man has no choice but to meet them at that level, or lose them. And if he doesn't, if he walks away, then you'll know he was never the right man for you in the first place. Because a man who genuinely cares, a man who sees your worth, a man who respects you, will never test your boundaries. He will honor them. This is where true power lies, not in chasing, not in proving, not in bending over backward for someone's attention, but in knowing, deep in your soul, that you are a woman who is worth the effort. So take a moment and ask yourself, are you setting boundaries that demand respect? Or are you letting the fear of losing someone make you compromise your worth? Are you standing firm in your standards, or are you hoping that if you give enough, love will be given in return? Because the moment you start honoring yourself, the moment you start choosing yourself, everything changes. The energy you radiate shifts. The way people treat you shifts. The kind of men you attract shifts. And this is what makes a woman truly irresistible. If this resonates with you, like this video and comment number 1 below. Let me know if you've ever struggled with setting boundaries and how things changed when you finally did. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We're just getting started. There is so much more to uncover, so many more secrets to unlocking deep, lasting attraction. 7. Mastering the push and pull. Dynamic attraction is not about always being close or always being distant. It's about knowing how to create a rhythm between the two. The most intoxicating relationships have a natural push and pull, a dance between presence and absence, between certainty and mystery. When a man feels he has you completely without any effort on his part, attraction fades. But when there is just enough distance, just enough unpredictability, he feels the urge to move toward you. Many women struggle with this balance. They either give too much, constantly available, always checking in, always adjusting their lives to fit a man's, or they go to the opposite extreme, pulling away so much that they create detachment instead of desire. The key is to understand that attraction isn't about extremes, it's about movement, a constant flow between closeness and space. Imagine a conversation that leaves you wanting more. The best storytellers know when to pause, when to build tension, and when to give just enough before pulling back. If everything is laid out all at once, there is no intrigue. But when there is space, your mind fills in the gaps. It keeps you engaged, anticipating the next moment. This is exactly how romantic attraction works. If you are always available, there is no tension, no reason for him to lean in, no reason for him to crave you. But if you pull away too much, he may feel like there is nothing to hold on to. The balance is in subtle, natural shifts, leaning in at times, then pulling back just enough to make him feel your absence. This isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding energy. Every time you step back, you create an opening for him to step forward. And when he does, you lean in again, just enough to keep the connection alive. This dynamic makes a man feel like he is choosing you, not just receiving you passively. The mistake many women make is assuming that once they have a man's attention, they must work to keep it by giving more, by proving themselves, by making sure he never has a chance to lose interest. But this approach backfires. When something is always there, it becomes ordinary, and nothing kills attraction faster than predictability. Think about the excitement of a new relationship, the thrill of not knowing exactly when he'll text, the rush of anticipation before seeing him, the subtle uncertainty that keeps you on edge. That energy exists because there is a natural distance, a space where desire builds. But once a woman starts overgiving, over-investing, or over-explaining, she collapses that space and the mystery disappears. Love, and even Stoic philosophy, teaches that detachment from the outcome is the key to attraction. A woman who embodies this understands that she does not need to hold on too tightly, because what is meant for her will naturally flow toward her. She does not chase because she knows that her presence itself is enough to draw in the right energy. She doesn't seek control, she trusts the natural rhythm of push and pull. So how does this look in practice? It means you don't rush to fill every silence. You don't overextend to keep a man interested. You let moments breathe. You let conversations end at their peak rather than stretching them out. You walk away before he starts taking you for granted rather than waiting until it's too late. It means you trust that if a man values you, he will show up. You don't need to remind him of your worth. Your actions and presence already communicate that. When you step back and he feels your absence, he will either rise to the occasion or reveal that he was never truly invested. Either way, you win. There is a moment in every romantic connection where a man starts to feel comfortable, where he assumes he knows exactly how things will go. That moment is where many women lose their power. They stop being unpredictable. They stop holding themselves back just enough to keep the tension alive. They start over-explaining their feelings, constantly initiating, making it too easy. Suddenly, without realizing it, they shift from being the woman he craves to the woman he assumes will always be there. But when you master the push and pull, that moment never comes. Just when he thinks he has you all figured out, you pull back slightly, just enough for him to feel the space, to notice your absence, to remember that your presence is not guaranteed. That pulls him right back in. Men don't fall in love with women who chase them. They fall in love with women who make them feel like they must earn them, not in a way that is exhausting or difficult, but in a way that makes them feel alive, engaged, and inspired to put in effort. So, if you've ever felt like a man was deeply interested in you at first, but then slowly lost his excitement, ask yourself, did I allow enough space for desire to grow? Did I let him move toward me, or was I always the one doing the work? Did I trust the natural flow of attraction, or did I rush in, trying to control the outcome? The beauty of push and pull is that it allows relationships to unfold naturally. It prevents you from becoming overly attached to a man too soon and keeps him in a state of active engagement, always wanting more, always feeling like he is in pursuit. And here's the truth. A man who truly desires you will never be deterred by a little space. In fact, he will be drawn to it because it makes your presence feel even more valuable. If a man pulls away and never comes back, he was never truly invested. But if he senses your distance and chooses to close the gap, that's when you know he values you. So stop fearing space. Stop fearing silence. Stop fearing the moments when you are not actively proving your worth. Instead, trust that your worth is already felt. Trust that when you step back, you allow room for a man to step forward. Trust that when you create just enough distance, you don't lose him. You make him realize what he has to lose. This is what keeps attraction alive, not just in the beginning, but for the long haul. Because attraction isn't about proximity, it's about energy. It's about maintaining just enough distance to keep the spark alive, to keep a man wanting more, to keep the connection feeling alive and exciting. Master this rhythm. this delicate balance of closeness and space, and you will never have to chase again. You will never have to beg for attention or wonder where you stand, because the moment you truly understand the power of push and pull, you will become the woman who never has to ask for love. It will be given freely, willingly, and with devotion. Passionately, attraction has never been about chasing. It's never been about proving, convincing, or bending over backward to make someone see your worth. The most powerful form of attraction comes from the energy you carry, the quiet confidence of a woman who knows she is valuable, whether a man sees it or not. When you understand the power of absence, you stop trying to force connections. You stop over-explaining, over-giving, and overcompensating. Instead, you start moving differently. You start living in a way that naturally draws people toward you, rather than pushing them away with excessive effort. Think about the way you feel when something truly rare enters your life. You treasure it. You appreciate it. You handle it with care because you understand it is not easily replaceable. This is exactly how men feel about women who know their worth. Women who do not give themselves away too easily. Women who create just enough space for desire to grow. Women who move with intention instead of insecurity. If you've ever felt like you had to chase a man, if you've ever wondered why some women seem to effortlessly command attention while others struggle to keep it, then understand this. It's not about looks, charm, or luck. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about the presence you bring when you're there and the impression you leave when you're not. Because absence, when used correctly, does not create distance. It creates desire. It creates room for longing, for appreciation, for a man to realize just how much he values you. And here's the best part. When you truly embody this, you will never again have to wonder where you stand with a man. His actions will tell you everything. If he steps up when you step back, if he puts in effort when he feels the possibility of losing you, if he treats you as a priority without you needing to ask, then you will know he sees your worth. But if he doesn't, then you will know he was never truly yours to begin with. And instead of feeling devastated, you will feel grateful. Grateful that you saw the truth early enough to walk away with your dignity intact, because a woman who understands her own value does not beg to be seen. She does not lower her standards to keep someone around. She does not fear losing a man who isn't willing to choose her wholeheartedly. She simply lives in her power, knowing that the right man will always recognize what he has in her. So the next time you feel the urge to overextend, to chase, to overcompensate, pause. Take a step back. Give space. Let him feel your absence and watch what happens next. Because when you stop proving your worth, you become the woman who doesn't have to. If you found this insightful, subscribe for more powerful strategies on attraction, relationships, and becoming the kind of woman who is effortlessly magnetic. Because this is just the beginning. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.